Greetings, my friends, and thank you for joining me as I examine this very exciting Wingsung P600 fountain pen with an ebonite body and 18 karat rose gold nib. I ordered this from AliExpress, and I chose the color and nib combination based on purely really my impression of the pictures on the website. There are not many reviews available of this specific pen, so I just went with the pictures. Also, I wanted to avoid these steel nibs from Wingsung. They're steel number 8 nibs, and also the nib, the 14 karat gold nib with the heartbeat slit. As my experience, I do have experience with them, so those are not my favorite nibs. So I thought I'd give this one a try. This is their regular 18 karat extra fine nib that I chose. So the pen took about 2.5 weeks to arrive, and it arrived in a plain black box that I discarded since. That reminded me of the Magna Carta Mach 600 box. However, inside the box was this tougher box. It seems like a piano black, very nicely finished. It's a felt bottom, and gives you somewhat of a premium look. It's heavy duty. Overall, I would say the packaging is on par with the Pilot Custom 823. It's good, but not outstanding, really. So the pen, when it came initially, was protected with a plastic sleeve that I've since gotten rid of. Holding the pen gives you an immediate feeling that this is a premium product. It's made of ebonite, and it feels light, but not cheap. It actually passes the ebonite smell test. It kind of smelled like burnt rubber. I was surprised because when they processed these with the whatever paint or lacquer that they put on, at least the Pilot Custom Urushi and Custom 845 don't have the similar smell anymore, but this pen actually does. So it passes the ebonite smell test, which I'm completely fine with. So uncapping the pen takes about 1 turn. It's a bit stiffer than I would like it, but I do expect this to improve over time. The threads are not sharp, and they seem very well smoothed out. Below the threads, we can see a little rose gold ring. That's a nice touch. I don't think it was 100% necessary, but it's a nice touch to indicate the ending of the threads. And then the grip section, which is very comfortable. It's a little bit longer than the 823 and 845. It's also a little longer than the Montblanc 149, longer than Pelikan M1000, and the Wingsung's own P630. The section is closer in length to that of the Parker Dual Fold and the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande, one of the new primary manipulations with number 8 titanium nib. Of course, without the drastic step down from the body to the nib section. Nice. Girth-wise, the nib section is about the same as the Leonardo that I showed earlier. It has a little bit of a lip here so that your hand doesn't slip out. Of course, this is a piston filler. The piston mechanism is pretty smooth. I have noticed that with my repeated measurements, it holds around 1.1 to 1.2 milliliters of ink. So despite what the size may indicate, it doesn't really have a big ink capacity. To most of us, including myself, 1.1 to 1.2 ml is pretty good volume of ink. I like to change the inks around frequently. The one thing I have to mention is that, like many other modern fountain pens, when you unscrew the piston initially, there's give here, there's a little bit of play. I've seen this in many new and old pens, including the vintage Montblanc 149s. This, for example, is a modern Montblanc 149, and you can see that that same piston play exists in this one too, before it engages and starts sucking up ink. You can have maybe half a turn of play, and that seems to be consistent among many pen brands. Let's check the Pelikan. Yes, so this much play in the Pelikan M800. So this seems to be something common. How about the Lamy 2000? Lamy 2000 has like 2 turns. It's terrible. I think Lamy has one of my least favorite pistons, to be honest. This is the stainless steel, and the microline version is not much better. So I don't know. I've had my Lamy 2000 for about 2 to 3 years, and they haven't broken on me. So I imagine this is durable, but do be aware that there's quite a bit of play in many piston fillers before the piston actually engages. That could be a safety mechanism. The piston disassembly is similar to that seen in other Wingsung pens. This pen actually does come with 2 different tools. I think both of these can disassemble the piston, and the other side of this has these pens that you can disassemble the nib. There you go. It's kind of like the certain German brand nib assembly. I wonder if this will just open if you twist it. Of course it will. Alright, so there's the nib assembly. So all of that makes the P600 a very comfortable pen to hold and write with. Of course, the comfort level depends on the preference, hand grip size, hand size, the method of grip, the grip strength, and so forth. But in my hands, this is one of the very best pens that I've held in my hand. And I would definitely put this on top 5 best grip sections. So that's a lot to say. It joins the likes of Montblanc 149, Pilot Custom 823, Pelikan M1000. Moving to the nib, it's a very close clone of the Montblanc 149, unfortunately. It's a very close clone of the Montblanc 149, which is the only unfortunate thing about this pen, because everything else seems so original. The extra fine 18 karat nib writes with a marvelous pencil-like feedback. It is smooth and very bouncy. The line width is similar to the extra fine nib from 149. It's a little bit monotone. Out of the box though, it did not give me any issues. The lines are uniform, but the nib is very bouncy. I would say more so than the 149, but not dissimilar to Pilot Custom Orochi. Very nice. Although similarly very close copy of the 149, the writing experience is actually very unique and not really in a bad way, as we'll see. Overall, I would say this pen writes like I would expect an 18 karat gold nib to write at this price range, $300 US. To ink this pen, I chose the Midnight Blue from Graf von Faber-Castell. Initially, I wrote with that, and then I switched the ink to the Atramentus Document Blue ink. As we know, Document Blue ink from the Atramentus is pretty wet ink, so it makes the lines look a little bit thicker. It also feathers on most of the papers I have, so that's a little caveat to keep in mind. Before we go to any writing samples, I'd like to take a look at the cap. The cap has a vintage look. I chose the rose gold trim purely based on the looks. It looks pretty nice, I would say. In terms of overall looks, the pen is marginally larger to my eyes compared to 149, and maybe a few millimeters shorter than the Leonardo. It's a little bit longer than the M1000 from Pelikan. Writing with the P600 is such a pleasure. It feels like a very universally sized pen. I would say it's as universally sized as the Pilot 823, especially because of the nib section here. It starts girthy and then it tapers down, so you have many different places to hold the pen. So if you have smaller hands, maybe you can grip it down here and it'll give you a little bit comfort. I like holding my pens staggered like this, and that helps me write very well with the smaller pens and then with the larger pens as well. That brings me to my conclusions and quick pros and cons debate. The pros list for this pen is quite long and it includes premium build, good material, Ebonite, beautiful colors actually, beautiful nib, amazing performance, and relatively affordable price considering the package that you get. It's also available in many different colors, accents, and designs. The con list is relatively short. I would say that the only big con is that they are copying shamelessly, I might add, the Montblanc 149 nib design, just the tritone design. Fortunately or unfortunately to them, they cannot really copy the tipping material very closely. The 149 tip is shaped in a very unique way in most of their pens, even from vintage to modern day ones. They're shaped just so uniquely. I think that it's really difficult to copy those. So kudos to 149. The other con in my list is actually just the cap being a little bit stiff to turn. So if you want to use this as a daily writing pen, you have to break this in for a few days. I actually had similar issue with the P600, and it was difficult to cap and uncap initially, but over time it loosened up. So I expect this one to loosen up too, and over time it shouldn't be a problem. The final question that remains though is, can this handle the Montblanc 149 nib? Can we replace this? To answer that question, you would have to stay tuned, maybe for the next video. However, looking at this nib and how it performs, I'm quite happy with it and don't see a good reason to try to fit another nib in here. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and answer that question. I changed my mind. Can we fit one of the 149 nibs on here? That's a very good question actually. So this is extra fine, as you can see, and to the 149. But I'm not going to unscrew this nib section, and usually these are just friction fit. Yeah. It's easy to take off. The nib section seems suspiciously similar to the 149, but I'm not going to unscrew this nib section, and usually these are just friction fit. Yeah. It's easy to take off. And let's bring into play a Montblanc 149 nib. Ta-da! So 149 modern nib seems to be a fine nib. I'm just gonna pull this off. They're easy to disassemble, the newer 149s. They're just friction fit. You don't need tools to hammer it out. Here's the nib. Here's the Wingsung feet. Seems like a hand in a glove. So I'm just gonna Isn't that amazing? Look at this. Wow. It's an Ebonite body 149 with a Montblanc nib. Maybe I'll do a writing sample of this sometime in the future. But there we go. Yes, it fits the Montblanc 149 nib. And this will probably, with the grip section being so nice and the bodywork being so beautiful, it will make it one of the most beautiful pens in history of pens. There's the answer. This brings me to the end of this review. Before I leave you with some close-up writing samples, I'd like to thank you all for joining me. I've recently passed 2,000 subscribers. I would like to thank each and every one of you for watching my videos and welcome your input and constructive criticism in making better and more entertaining videos in the future. I hope that you all have a great day and I hope to see you in the next video. Now on to some writing samples. Goodbye.